second. India have won the Test match. India have won the series. They're going to get back for two. India home. Lords goes wild.
Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the 81 All Out podcast. This is Siddhartha Vaidyanathan at Sidvi on Twitter. And I'm joined today by the regular crew, Ashoka, Mahesh and Kartikeya. I'll link all their Twitter handles. So we're here to talk about India's upcoming tour to South Africa, the test series, 3 test series that's coming up. It's the one major test country where India are yet to win a test series. So it's always exciting, interesting, a lot of anticipation when India go to South Africa. And this time, of course, there's been a lot of other things in the build-up. We'll talk about that as well, but we'll also get to the series and what we expect. Of course, we are quite early doing this preview, about a week in advance. So there could be, just a warning here, there could be injuries and many things that come up in the meantime. So we may not exactly be accurate in terms of team selection, etc. But this is, of course, the broader and bigger picture. Another side note, as we've been mentioning on previous podcasts, we recently republished War Minus the Shooting by Mike Marcuse, a classic book written in 1996. It covers the 1996 World Cup, but it basically just uses that World Cup as a lens through which to look at so much about the subcontinent, politics, the socio-economic situation at the time, cricket as a tool of nationalism, cricket as a commercial vehicle. Basically, it was so prescient on in so many ways, and it was a privilege for us to republish it. All the details on our website 81allout.com. But if you want to buy the book, which you should, it's on amazon.com. And also, we're glad to inform you that it is going to be available in India. If you're in Bangalore, you can pick it up in the Atta Galata bookstore. They have copies to sell. They also have this wonderful service where they will courier you the book if you write to them. So you can write to them on Twitter, or you can write an email to them, and they are happy to courier it to you for the charge. So anyway, I'll put up all the details in the notes and in the website. Now, welcome, guys. Hope you are having a good time following the soap opera that is Virat Kohli versus BCCI. I think 50 episodes easily, right? On Netflix, we can do a show.
Yeah. They are already done. They've already sold the rights, I think.
Yeah, the question is to who? See, because that's also important, right? Like, you guys do another movie podcast on the side, of course. So it all depends on who is the director.
I think they'll sell it to Hotstar. They'll play this on the breaks between IPL matches.
Okay.
This is the strategic timeout. Like, so Kohli will bat, and then during strategic timeout, he'll come and have a sword fight with Ganguly and then go back to batting. I mean, that's what is going to happen.
So I think this is the new RCB v KKR, right?
Yeah.
No, but look at this big picture, right? So just like few months ago, India were in England. They were leading a series 2-1. Virat Kohli was like on top of the world. And, it is fair to say that India could have probably won that series. Who knows? I mean, we'll know, of course, next year. There's the deciding test to come. But the fact is that series happens. Then the COVID scare, India decide to leave that test to go. They go to the IPL, they play the IPL. Then Kohli decides to quit T20 captaincy and then quits the RCB captaincy. And then from there to here, in a situation where he has now lost his one-day captaincy, and where now he is alleging that the BCCI president has been lying about saying that he told him not to quit T20 captaincy. I mean, now he's like a marked man. Where have we reached in like 3 months?
There was a gap. See, the market hates a vacuum. Like in the January-February window, you'll have the auctions and everybody will be talking about rubbish like who will go for 7 million, who will go for 12 million and all that. But this November, December was a vacuum. Other than this English and Australian guys, nobody was particularly excited about what was happening. Like October, we were crying about World Cup that went away. November, December, New Zealand series is not enough to fill a hole in our hearts. We need some spice. Like we need constant stimulation from cricket. That is the demand of today's cricket. And this is a very good, segue into auctions. What will Lucknow buy? What will the other team, whoever it is, I don't know who the other team is, like Patna or Gujarat, I don't know who that is. Ahmedabad, let it be. But yeah, so there should be something.
Did you just get both the cities wrong?
No,
Lucknow has a team. Yeah. But yeah, nobody cares.
Rahul is going to captain that team.
I thought he was the most clued on to the T20 or at least IPL amongst the four of us.
Yeah. But but my point is like, really, I mean, the saddest thing is that this exists, this whole so-called rift or whatnot, that it exists itself is a very sad thing because, I am kind of an outlier because earlier when the Great Chappell saga and all used to happen, these things were interesting because the cricket generally wasn't. We used to get tulped everywhere. We used to say Fab 4, Fab 5, whatnot, but we used to get tulped everywhere. But
what are you saying, man? During the Greg Chappell time, India chased some 15 times. They won some record 15 chases and all. What is this?
That is ODI, man, not Test. Right? So
in fact, they won a Test in South Africa for the first time. But anyway, let's not get facts come in the way now.
Yeah. So this is a year where we beat Australia in Australia. We are leading England in England. I would say we beat England in England. And we beat England in India. And we beat New Zealand in India. So, but the main story is I stand with Virat or the nation stands with the other. See, that's how we are going to, this year will be remembered like 15 years down the line. Did you remember that famous tussle when Virat Kohli took a stand against BCCI? Who cares, man? I mean, who cares if the Indian captain is Virat Kohli or some tree stump put an Indian jersey to a tree stump and make it captain and unleash your bowlers.
Did you just say who cares? Did you just say who cares who's the Indian
captain? I did say that because that is what I feel. I feel it's very...
You've never said this before and they make Rohit Sharma the captain and you say this? Really?
Really? I don't care. I don't care if Parthiv Patel comes back from retirement and becomes...
The bitterness of a CSK fan who can't stomach the fact that a Mumbai Indians captain has been made the Indian captain. On the back
of ever since Dhoni quit from captaincy,
doesn't acknowledge IPL.
No. Ever since Dhoni quit from captaincy, CSK fans are like, who cares who is the captain? Yeah, exactly. Put a tree stump as captain. As long as Dhoni was captain, the MSDNs were in full force.
That is for CSK. I mean, you have to have different strategy for different events. We have a bowling attack which can win you matches anywhere in the world in Test cricket. I mean, why the hell would you worry about all this?
To the listeners of this podcast, let me just say, the transformation of Ashoka to Kartikeya is complete at this particular moment. When he has basically said nothing else matters, only bowling attack matters. Okay, let's close this. Let's end this podcast.
No, there is one more thing.
Let's get the spice from KD instead.
I actually wanted to care about this. Then I was stopped by this revelation that both Ganguly and Kohli are many-time millionaires in US dollars. So the tussles of rich people in this situation, should I really care about this is what I'm thinking. This is what I think. I mean, you guys might have an enlightened cricket opinion about this whole saga. So please go ahead.
What? It's just a Kyuki Ganguly bhi kabhi Kohli thi or some such new episode. But it's such a boring story here. I mean, Kohli wanted...
Oh God, we cannot have two KDs on this podcast now.
But, I mean, okay, well, see, there is okay. Apart from the jokes, there is a serious, not serious, but there is a significant point here, which is that since Ganguly got the job with, Ashoka's great hero and Srinivasan's blessings, very unopposed, he got elected as president, and then they completely decided to just do away with as much of the Lordha constitution as they could, because Lodha, after all, wanted professional management in BCCI, whereas our fellows, these guys, they want like the old amateur times, like, you can do whatever you want, and there is no restraints and there are no rules, and you can basically say whatever you want, say however you want. BCCI communicates with the public like when it wishes to. Usually it doesn't. When it does, it's anonymous briefings. I mean, even team announcements are anonymous briefings. Yeah? I mean, it's just like a joke, And I don't understand. Ganguly is the BCCI president, right? If he doesn't want Kohli to quit, then he should stop Kohli from quitting, right? Or if Kohli is not listening to him, then he should do something about it. What is the point of after everything has been done, after everything has been announced, going and giving a press conference and saying, well, actually, we didn't want him to quit. Who cares? You didn't do your job.
This is the difference between Ganguly and the great hero N. Sreenivasan. Mohinder Amarnath wanted to drop Dhoni as captain. N. Sreenivasan went and told him, boss, stop it. You get out now. Don't do all this nonsense. And he stopped him right there.
That's because Dhoni didn't want to quit. See, it made Sreenivasan's job easier. Here, he wanted to quit. So then what is the point of Ganguly going and asking the selector to not, fire him or whatever?
But the point is, ultimately, it doesn't matter whether he quits or not. It makes no difference. It's like you have one captain, you have another captain. What difference does it make? I mean, it's not.
Hey, you don't know. I mean, you must hear Ganguly say this. He said two leaders in a format is too much leadership. So they're trying to prevent too much leadership. They're optimizing for the correct level of leadership in a team.
And that is, in pure cricketing terms, that's also BS, because T20 and ODIs are like as vastly different as ODIs and tests. So it is totally justified to have two different captains in that.
In this whole saga, the most sort of important point to be talked about is the fact that there was no point in actually dropping Kohli as a captain. He has such stellar record as a captain. And if you believe a captain's winning percentage matters, there was no business to dropping Kohli in the first place. And to some extent, I have some sympathy for Ganguly here, as much as I think he is wrong, is the fact that usually when a board president or when a board decides to drop a captain like that, like KD said, they have never bothered to communicate. Now, after 2 days of outrage, especially about not being grateful to him and all that, the social media sort of came and said, thank you, Captain Kohli, whatever, the BCCI's social media handles. And then Ganguly basically did some sort of a damage control by saying, okay, we acknowledge what he's done. We ideally wanted him to carry on, but he couldn't or whatever. So in order to sort of make the situation better, he ended up digging a deeper sort of hole for himself, which usually a cricketer doesn't react. Like if let's say you think of any other cricketer in that situation, even if you know that the BCCI president is lying about you, you don't react. But Kohli, for him to come and react, I like the fact that he reacted.
I have a technical doubt, because since you three guys follow cricket deeper than I do, what is the notice period of a captain? Like 1.5 hours is not enough, is it?
That's exactly what Sunny asked, right? Like,
What's the notice?
The selector called you and told you 1.5 hours before. What's your problem? To be honest, he's not making a problem out of it.
That is exactly what Siddharth Ponga has written in an article as well, saying 1.5 hours is 1.5 hours more than many Indian captains have received in the past. So it's totally like a generous amount of notice period to get.
I don't think Kohli was bitter about the 1.5 hours part as much as the fact that he wanted to defy the point that he was told well in advance.
Yeah.
In that context, he brought in the 1.5 hours, but it's been kind of quoted out of context. And Sunny kind of, really launched an attack into him saying, what more do you want?
No, but my biggest problem with this Ganguly thing here is that there could have been other ways for him to do damage control. If indeed he had not convinced him to not quit the T20 captaincy, which what Kohli says, there were other ways to go to the media and say that, do some damage control. Why bring up this random fact if indeed it was a lie? And when Kohli is basically coming and calling him out, and Kohli, they should know Kohli by now. Kohli is not going to just stop taking this BS. He's not some highly diplomatic guy and all that.
These people don't have cell phones or what? I mean, they don't call each other.
Exactly. They don't. I don't know.
I mean, are they living in the 50s even 20s or 10s before cell phone was a ubiquitous thing?
Or are they MS Dhoni, who's notorious for not being reachable on the phone?
Or who announces retirements on Instagram.
Anyway, so the point here is that people of course have compared this to the Chappell-Ganguly situation of the mid 2005, and while the volume and the controversy are probably at that level, it's far different because Chappell was in the dressing room and making decisions when the team was being run, and Ganguly was also there in the dressing room until he was dropped, and so the level of friction there was like way different. Here Ganguly is sitting in India while the Indian team is playing there, and sort of there is no, I don't know about Rahul Dravid's involvement in this whole thing, but I doubt that the level of friction between Dravid and Kohli is going to be anything close to what it was between Chappell, etc. So the team
So you're accusing Dravid because the common denominator between the Chappell saga and this saga is that Dravid was present on the scene both.
I was interpreting the opposite, that the Bangalore boys defending the Bangalore boys, saying Dravid has nothing to do with this.
Oh,
he probably does.
This is exactly what they said during the Chappell era also. Like Dravid was an innocent bystander.
See, the thing is that will be even more interesting for me actually. If it becomes Dravid v Kohli, then we are in the lip smacking situation.
If there's a point to sort of discussing or bringing any of this up in a podcast like this, apart from, entertainment, it is to sort of say that I think that, friction is inevitable. Yeah? I mean, Kohli has been captain for 5 years, and 5 years is a long time, enough. If they want to change, that's fine. It's not a big deal. But the sort of the ground reality, the basis, I mean, Chappell in 2005 it was his job to improve the side. And so part of improving the side was to say, well, where from 1 to 11 can I improve? Get more runs out of this side or get more wickets out of this side. And he said, well, here's this guy over the last 5 years. If you take out the minnows, he's averaged 30. So, hey, I've got other options. They're 7 years younger than he is. It was a plainly obvious choice to sort of replace them. The fact is, Ganguly did not like that, right? And so instead of sort of quitting with, accepting, what was a perfectly reasonable decision, he made a big stink about it, and then he sort of wrestled everything into the mud, and he thought it did not save him, but he wrecked a lot of other things, for the next 2 years. Actually, it was worth listening to Sidvi about this topic, because at that time, Sidvi was actually covering blow by blow every match, every series India were playing. And he knows Andar Ki Baat,
No, but that is the problem. Knowing Andar Ki Baat also makes you lose your dispassionate sense also, which is a problem. Which is why I think the journalists who covered that episode and the journalists who are very closely covering this episode are not the best people to talk about it, because you lose your sense of thing. But the thing is, in retrospect, Chappell basically went to Ganguly and said, you drop yourself. I think you should drop yourself. In retrospect, they should have dropped him. And then Chappell got to the media and said, see, we told Ganguly to resign, but then he didn't. So we had to do it.
So in Ganguly's defense, KD, in Ganguly's defense, basically he belonged to your school of thought. He told Chappell, if you want to improve the side, focus on the bowling, because that's what impacts the match. Batting doesn't matter whether I average 30 or 40. You can replace me with a guy who averages 40, but that's not going to change the result. So he always kind of belonged in your camp. It's just that you refuse to see that point.
And anyway, the Chappell's replacement for Ganguly was Suresh Raina. And in retrospect, we can also argue about whether that was a valid replacement or not.
Chappell's main ambition was to play another bowler. So
that is true. His ambition was to play 5 bowlers. And while Kohli gets a lot of credit for that, that Dravid and Chappell were the early.
In Chappell's imagination, no, Irfan Pathan was Ben Stokes.
No, I think you're selling Irfan Pathan short here. I think Sobers is the more valid comparison. Anyway, so I think we have covered enough of this. You can read more about this on gossip pages in various outlets. And twitter.com is...
Before we move on, Siddhi, let's take a poll. Team Kohli, Team Dada. Who's where? Please. Let's close
India.
it off.
Team India, man.
Team India, man. It's
Team
all
bowlers.
about India.
Team bowlers. Screw even that. Team bowlers.
I am
Team
on
Bumrah.
Team Bumrah.
Make Bumrah the captain.
Make Bumrah the captain.
Don't make Bumrah the captain. Now we saw what happens when Cummins becomes captain. Don't make any fast bowler captain, no, please. They will miss tests and then They will miss tests, man. They'll get injured. They'll do something. Don't make them.
Cummins missed the test match. He lasted one test match.
Not injury, man. That is because of some COVID-related stuff.
No, but Cummins can get
man.
But he still led from the front in the first test. That still has an impact on the Aussie psyche. Look at that. They're still leading.
No, the term you have to use, just like everybody agrees that in the GABA in 2003, the captain set the tone for the rest of the series.
No, but to be fair to that narrative, I have some sympathy for it. Because if Ganguly can score 100, then...
Okay, but let's come to the cricket point of this whole thing. While gossip is one thing, if Virat Kohli has a poor test series, like a really poor test series, and if India end up losing the test series, then it will only be a chance for BCCI to pile on, right? And basically use the chance to do whatever they want, even if it means throwing him out of test captaincy or something, if it comes to it.
India in the 21st century, they have sacked captains exactly twice. Okay, 2005 Ganguly was sacked, and 2021 Kohli was sacked as ODI captain. Those are the only two times when India have sacked a captain in the last they sacked Azharuddin, because in 2000, if you remember, Tendulkar also resigned. He refused to continue in the job.
Yeah, he resigned. Okay, so even if they don't do that, what I'm coming to is, of course, the central point of this podcast is the biggest beneficiary of this series is going to be Rohit Sharma, because that fellow is sitting outside. He has nothing to do. So whatever happens within is like, oh, if only Rohit was there. If only Rohit was there. You're always better when you're outside, right, than when you're inside.
This is a narrative you've sold him for so long that you kept him out of the testing for so long.
Earlier, you were saying Ashoka has turned into me. Now you are turned into Mahesh.
Yeah, I've always been a Mahesh troller anyway. So I've just been continuing the trolling.
But the greatest tragedy of all this is India's greatest cricket captain is nowhere in the conversation. Who is Ajinkya
Rahul?
Ajinkya Rahane. 6 test matches he captained, 4 he won, 2 he drew. So
with the body language of a refrigerator, man. He says
And look, Ajinkya Rahane's achievement is surely seen now in stark contrast to Joe Root's England, going and getting hammered there. See what Rahane did with his team.
And you guys don't even want to talk about him, when we talk about the team selection, he won't be there. That is for sure. But anyways, I just put an advance sympathy vote for him.
I am first of all surprised he's in the squad. That is the starting point of this discussion. But okay, now that he's in the squad, hopefully he's not in the team when they pick the 11. Anyway, so let us get to this series now. I think we should start a bit about...
You're a cruel man, Sidvi.
Well, this is my opinion, man. I'm not some selector or something. I can say what I want.
That's just the Shiv Sainik and KD coming out.
So I think we should talk a bit about India-South Africa as a rivalry. And, it's been, I think we have probably seen all of India's tours to South Africa. I have. Okay, let me date myself. I don't know how old you guys are. The 92-93 tour, of course, I didn't watch it extensively, but I remember watching quite a lot of highlights and also, reading about it on the morning papers. Vijay Lokapalli covered that series for The Hindu. And, I remember reading his reports. Maybe even R. Mohan was there for writing the match reports and all that. So it's interesting because it's the only country, as we said, where India has not won test series. They have won tests, famous tests, 2006, 2010 in Durban. They won a test in the Wanderers in 2018. But this is probably, arguably, I don't think even 2018 comes in comparison. This is arguably the best Indian bowling attack that has gone to South Africa. Despite Ravindra Jadeja not being there, they still have, they have Ashwin, of course, one of the great spinners. They have a fast bowling attack. So I think this gives them a great chance of winning there. But yeah, let's talk a bit. You guys, what sort of, if you can share any sort of thoughts, memories, anything about South Africa. Okay, let me start off actually. For me, honestly, in 92-93, I didn't really know what to expect from, South Africa. I didn't realize how good they will be or how bad they'll be, because they were just recently coming back from their isolation. And of course, you saw them at the World Cup, but that is one thing. But they had also come to India before that to play 3 matches in the ODIs. So you felt, okay, South Africa, they're good, but they're also beatable, because India had won that one-day series and all that. But then that series was really interesting because, a lot of the tests were really attritional, slow batting and all that. But the bowling was, you began to realize how South Africa were a really strong bowling unit from that time. And then, of course, you moved to 96, which was like the first full live series that I saw from South Africa. And, 66 all out and 100 all out in Durban sticks in the mind. And that ball that Donald bowled to Tendulkar, I mean, it's still comes, you see it even now, and you realize that, what a moment that was, just to see the stumps flying off and being uprooted from the ground, and to see Sachin still in that defensive pose, holding that pose there while the stumps have basically gone off somewhere. And then that famous Sachin-Azhar partnership and all that. So yeah, those two tours are interesting for me, because the first tour I just saw briefly on TV, but read a lot about it. Second tour, you saw almost every ball live and thing. Yeah, so you guys can talk about other series and what your memories. Ashoka?
You said rivalry. For rivalry to exist, there should be some sort of
that is true.
But I think we have gotten various stages of tulping in South Africa over the years. And South Africa had very spectacular and visually pleasing batsmen like Kepler Wessels, Gary Kirsten, Jack Kallis. And this match start at 2 p.m. So you imagine how your attention span will be if these guys start batting and you start questioning, why have I started liking cricket at all in life? And so thank God there was a Klusner in between. So Gibbs, he would.
Bota Dippenaar, man, how can you forget him?
Bota Dippenaar, yes, of course. He was the first prototype of Kallis. Even though I think he debuted after Kallis, but he was the prototype of Kallis. And so these are some of the shining memories of me falling into various stages of coma in the first 3 tours at least. And then from the Indian side, that Azhar Sachin partnership, right? And then Sehwag Sachin partnership, and then 2010 series was really good and also terrible because Kallis dominated the series even more than Tendulkar. And he batted for a long stretches of time. That was terrible to... he is very pleasing to watch when he scores runs. Just that he scores runs once every 3 hours. So those kind of exciting memories is what I have. And then the real excitement actually comes when they bowl. And we couldn't... you have Pollock, Antony, Donald... Brian Macmillan and all, I remember winning man of the match for some reason. I think he hits 100, is it? And then takes some tons of wickets for some reason. And Klusner was fast at that point in time. Early Klusner was really, really fast.
Early Klusner was fast and he hit 100 also in that same Azhar Sachin match. Klusner also hits 100 in that match.
And he comes to support Macmillan and he ends up scoring.
I remember feeling very bad for W.V. Raman also because for some reason Indian management thought he's a South African specialist and took him exclusively to face fast bowlers in South Africa for some reason. Poor guy didn't get flat pitches in India to whack. So
he in fact scored the only 100 that an Indian scored in that ODI series, right? 7-match ODI series. Yeah, he scored 100.
I remember his 96 also. He scores a 96 and team scores 192. The other 96 is scored by the rest of the team. So that I remember. And then for some reason I remember, I think I have not checked scorecard, so I may be wrong. Praveen Amre scores 100 somewhere.
Yeah, on debut.
On debut. Same
on debut. So I'm right.
Yeah.
So
In fact, I've not seen ball by ball of that innings yet, but the little bit of highlights I've seen, it's quite intriguing to actually watch Praveen Amre against Donald and those bowlers and all, and how after that he never sort of scaled those heights again. He never, his career sort of fizzles out after that, or you can say he was treated badly and all that. Whichever version. But yeah, it was a.
Hey, there was nothing to fizzle out. He barely played another 2 tests in Sri Lanka, and that's about it.
Exactly. Yeah, he was dropped. Yeah. Yeah. So, but talking about, you spoke about that attractive, the attractiveness of the batting and all. But in the last series, I mean, AB de Villiers had such a fantastic series, and
the last series, AB had a good series. I think Hashim Amla made a 50 something. I think a couple of 50s were made by Faf as well. Interestingly, all 3 are absent this series, so that is a crucial thing. And one thing I wanted to remember, it has nothing to do with India, South Africa, whatnot, but my early days of street cricket, I used to mimic Hudson a lot with like exaggerated backlift. It never used to work well, but I used to always want to have that backlift for some reason, like bat going beyond my head. But Andrew Hudson is another player that I used to watch. And
surely you mimicked Klusner also. I think every street cricketer would have mimicked Klusner's bowling.
If I was a left-hander, I would have. But
bowling.
Oh yeah, going wide of the crease and spearing it in. Yeah.
So for me, like you mentioned, 92 is sort of very vague memory. I do remember 92 being a very slow-scoring series, and I was just looking at the scorecards now before coming into the podcast. Most of the hundreds were scored in the hundreds. Forget the other innings. Just the hundreds were scored at like 35-40 strike rate, except for the 100 by Kapil, who was never going to score at 40 for sure. Everything else was scored at 35-40. So I remember that being a very boring series, like slow scoring series, and I don't remember watching all of them live. But 96 I remember distinctly, because that was also the time when the ESPN Star was kind of taking over in India. And they had extensive highlights and all kinds of segments, most valuable player. And even now, after all these years, I still remember some pieces of commentary from that series, both South Africa and the Zimbabwe leg before that. And I remember all of Sreesanth and Prasad's wicket packages and so on. So that was beautiful to watch. Even after we lost, Durban was quite painful. It's quite possible that in another universe, if the Barbados didn't happen, we could have ended up with a 66 all-out broadcast instead of 81 all-out. It had such a profound impact on us growing up. But I was a big Drought fan at that time, so I was very happy to see him score the 100 in the final test, which we came pretty close to winning. The other thing that I remember very well, that the most sort of significant memory of South African series probably for me is Bloemfontein, the first test of the 2001 test series, Sehwag's debut as well. So that was personally for me, that was around the time when I was kind of firmly in the Dravid camp and I was moving into this Sachin camp, because the majority opinion on Sachin seems to be like tapering off. And I felt sorry for him. Here's this extraordinary batsman where the whole nation was worshipping him. All of a sudden, there was a little bit of a doubt about him. And I don't know, whatever made me switch, that was probably the first innings of Sachin that I watched as an absolute fan. It's kind of bizarre to say that, but it is true. And what an innings that was. That 155 that he scored at Bloemfontein, is in my book is probably the second best, second most attractive such innings. I wouldn't say second best. That's probably.
Is it even his best 155?
Yeah, that's always a doubt. So that's. But I would make a good case that they're not too far apart. So it was an extraordinary innings, so breathtaking, so beautiful, and again in 50 for 4 or something like that. It was good to watch Sehwag bat as well, but to watch Sachin in that innings was out of the world. So there's a friend of mine called PC Naresh, who's PC Prakash's brother, Ranji Trophy cricketer. So the next day I met Naresh in some place, and he came and said, "Machi, it was like going to Tirupati and having Venkatachalapati just for yourself for 1 hour. It was that great." And the way he narrated, for a cricketer, for a first-class cricketer who's played with quite a lot of international cricketers, the level of appreciation that he had for the innings, I'll never forget. Like usually you don't, especially coming from Chennai, even the first division cricketers are quite snobbish. Even in an innings like this, they'll point out the fact that he missed a couple of balls. But for Naresh to come and talk in that tone is something that I'll never forget.
I don't know. It was probably one of his easiest hundreds. It was wayward bowling on a road with no good spinners. I mean,
okay, Katie, please fuck off.
It's true. They made, and it was such a road that after that 380 all out, like South Africa made like 530 for 7 or something like that. It was like a real road, man.
They won
You want a great Tendulkar innings in South Africa. You take like, I would say that the
2010.
The 169 in 96-7 was.
That also came after 3 South Africans scored 100 and they amassed more than 500 runs.
Yeah, but that was also a South African attack.
Yeah, that was also a road.
But that was a better South African attack. No, there was Donald who was really quick. There's Pollock. There's Matthews, McMillan, and all those. Everybody.
And Klusener.
This is what Mornanto, Hayward, and company, man. I mean, there's
Pollock, Kallis, Nitini, Klusener, and Hayward, and Nicky Boy.
One decent bowler in there. Pollock.
Decent. Like if Pollock is decent, like what? Who's better than decent then?
No. KD has become a nostalgia merchant. Those days things were better and all. Yes.
South Africa. Look, okay. In 2010-11 was like the first time India toured South Africa where the two sides had sort of something approaching parity in the bowling, which is that India had basically Zahir Khan and Harbhajan Singh at their peak. Harbhajan Singh's bowling in the 2010-11 series was phenomenal, I thought. And Zahir Khan, even though he missed one of the tests, was still at his peak absolutely in that season. And South Africa had Steyn and Morkel, and then not much else. I think they were playing Solekeli or Sotsobi actually, and Harris, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. Solekeli was a wicketkeeper. Yeah.
Yeah. Sotsobi.
Yeah.
And India also had Ishant Sharma, but that was like Ishant Sharma circa 2010, which was like not Ishant Sharma circa 2020. But that was also that test match had like 2 great hundreds. So Kallis made 100 and Tendulkar made 100 in I think Cape Town it was. And then on the last day, I think India played out the 5th day. Again, they were able to play out the 5th day because it was basically 2 bowlers and not much else. But South Africa, there were times when South Africa could field a really, really good attack. And until about 2010, India could never match that in terms of depth, especially. So my memories of South Africa in the 90s are pretty patchy. We didn't have cable. So, but I do have a memory of Kapil Dev century, and I remember that was, I remember it vividly because that is the first time I actually noticed that there are really no fielders in front of square on the offside in a test match. like Kapil Dev would the bowler would bowl it full outside off stump and Kapil Dev would wade into it as you smash it into the offside, and then the camera would follow the ball, and then there's this one poor fielder who's running after the ball. There's nobody else in that entire picture. It's so you can see that at that time this was the level of my grasp of cricket. So that is my one memory. The other memory I have of South Africa is Fanie de Villiers, and I'm hazy as to whether this is a test match memory or a one-day memory. But I seem to have this distinct impression that South Africa had a leg trap for Tendulkar, especially. They used to put 3 mid-wickets and have Fanie de Villiers bowl straight. And that this really troubled Tendulkar a lot. I don't know whether this was in the 1992 tests or whether it was in the one days or what, but it was there. I have this very strong memory, and the other day I was looking up some YouTube clips, searching for them. I can't find anything about this. So
it could be one dayers. I remember Fanie de Villiers doing that in one dayers, but it may well have been tests also. So I don't know if which one it was. But yeah, I mean, 2 points. One is talking about the Bloemfontein 2001. It's interesting that you mentioned your friend's comment about Tendulkar and seeing Venkatajalapati in Tirupati and all. But the analogy to that is when we also got a brief glimpse of Venkatajalapati in Tirupati, and then we had to quickly, Jaragandi, we had to move on, was Lakshman's 32 in that same test. What about that innings? The greatest 32 ever.
Indeed. There's absolutely no doubt about it. I think, that's a Jaragandi experience for sure.
I don't know about that. Oh, yeah, he was good there, but I still feel his 20s and 30s in the Zimbabwe series, right after the India-Australia one were better than this. He looked far more comfortable.
You're saying this just to troll us, right?
No, I really felt that.
I think the Bloemfontein 32 is like the greatest 32 of all time. There's absolutely no doubt in my mind.
Again, the Bloemfontein problem with Bloemfontein is that Orlando Hayward was bowling. You see,
the score was like 350 for 3. It was still 68 for 4.
Also, KD, Orlando Hayward came to India in that series before that. And they won that series. And he bowled very well in India also, by the way.
Yeah, but that was a dodgy series, man. You don't know what was going on in that series.
Nobody remembers Sreesanth hitting Andre for a 6, is it?
Oh, of course we do. But what we remember more is that dance.
I remember of that test match. I'll tell you what I remember of that test match. I remember Sreesanth getting Jack Kallis of a ball which clearly bounced off a pebble and leapt off a length. It was unplayable. It was impossible to play. And people are going on about that it was some genius delivery, man. It was it's like an obvious.
You know what? The delivery became a genius because of that. What happened to Kallis when he faced it? Basically, he just gets thrown off balance and then he's just showing it, right?
I know he was good enough to actually hit it with the bat, which was a minor achievement on Kallis' part.
Same ball, bloody Cummins balls, you'll say, wow, what a great bowler extracting bounce out of a nothing wicket.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, and Sreesanth hit the pebble.
If there's a pebble, then there's a pebble, okay?
Cummins is so good. Cummins is so good, he can hit the pebble.
Yeah, but Sreesanth, he's a lucky guy. He gets a fight on that, right?
In our last episode, we pissed off a lot of people.
How many listeners are we going to lose because of this? Because of Mahesh's heckling on behalf of all his sacred cows.
No, we'll get a lot more listeners because of that. If
I'm coming to the
word goes out that I'm heckling KD, we'll get 2,000 more people listening to us.
Yeah. No, I mean the headline of this podcast is going to be KD F off. It's Mahesh. That's all. That's it. We'll get a lot of listeners. No, but last episode, we basically picked our favorite 3 batsmen for playing spin. And we pissed off a lot of people because many of us didn't pick Sachin. Only this Ashoka picked Sachin and all of us were deemed anti-national.
So KD also picked Sachin, then he changed his opinion. But
he changed it. No. So he became a Deshdrohi after that.
That did not make it into the podcast, so it did not happen.
Oh, that way. It was edited out. Okay. But he changed it. So his final list was there. Okay, let's lose more listeners this time by picking your favorite, just one, don't pick 3 and all. Your favorite Indian innings in South Africa. It could be across whatever you've seen, whatever. Go ahead, Ashoka. You'll pick Sachin and then you'll be safe, I know.
Sachin 155. I'm done. You should give me the first. You should give me the first right.
Sachin 155. Why would you pick that? That's my choice.
You picked that over Sachin Cape Town.
Okay, wait. Let me.
Which Cape Town?
2010 Cape Town.
Wait. Azhar also same, right? Azhar Cape Town.
See, eventually you will pick Azhar only. Yeah, and that partnership was quite crazy. In the middle session after lunch, they meet Mandela and then they come and then something happens, something goes into them and they just start blitzing that attack.
Now, one of the things Sunny said at the end of the day was that apparently they met Nelson Mandela during the lunch break when India were down 4 or 5 wickets or whatever. And Sunny said it's as if they were so inspired that they wanted to put on a show for the man that they went ahead and had this extraordinary exhibition of batting in test matches.
Yeah, okay. What about you, Mahesh?
I'll probably go with 2 choices just to hedge myself on which side the outrage is going to fall. One, naturally, Sachin 155. I'm going to...
He'll say 148 Dravid.
No. Probably Kohli 41 at Joburg. I think that's my favorite Kohli innings. And both innings has a personal reason. That's probably basically, with Sachin, it's like the moment where I converted into this full-time Sachin phantom. And with Kohli, I was a reluctant sort of, I didn't really warm up to Kohli as a test batsman for the longest time. And that 41 completely changed it for me.
So you're picking that 41 over Rahane's innings in that test. Interesting. Huh? So.
48.
as KD would call it, that's fluke. He was just throwing it at it.
KD, you're going to pick a Rahane innings, I guess.
Does it have to be an Indian player?
Yeah, because we're talking India. Oh, you're saying you're going to pick a South African innings?
Yeah, I think.
Okay, go ahead. Who will stop you?
I'd say Herschel Gibbs 196 out of 362 all out. Is the closest thing I've seen to a match-winning innings ever. I mean, that was a India saved that test match in the end, if you remember, with a Deep Das Gupta and Rahul Dravid on the 5th day at Port Elizabeth.
Yeah. Port Elizabeth.
It was a seaming wicket in the first 2 days, and basically apart from Gibbs, I think Sreesanth got 5 wickets, but apart from Gibbs, nobody else was able to score. Nobody else was able to survive, and Gibbs was like hammering the bowling like on the rise and whatnot he was doing. I mean, it was incredible innings. And I mean, on another day, it would have ended on 20 or something. But that day, it lasted until 196. It was extraordinary innings. If you want an Indian innings, then
hang on 1 minute, KD. The bowling lineup is Srinath, Agarkar, Ganguly.
Ganguly, dude. Fearsome.
Yeah, and Harbhajan. And Kumble's record in South Africa is not particularly great. And this was possibly Harbhajan's first out to South Africa.
And
so
even then,
when you say seaming conditions, the two people best equipped to utilize that were Srinath and Agarkar.
Yeah, but even
what's wrong with Ganguly, man?
Nothing wrong, but unfortunately only bowled 2 overs. Otherwise, I would have counted.
No, but even then, it was 196 out of 362 all out. That says something about the conditions. No, and India managed 200 all out in response. And against that 2001 South African bowling, which was not great. So the conditions were definitely, eccentric. Actually, India faced those conditions quite. Like one of the test matches, which was basically completely a write-off for India, was the first one in the 2010 series, Centurion. Where they got put in on a drying pitch and got shot out for 136. And then, AP de Villiers and a bunch of people make hundreds. I think South Africa made 650 or something like that. And then
659 or something. Yeah.
I think Dhoni and Tendulkar made hundreds in the third innings, but they still lost 5 innings. But
I'm not going to let you get away with this now. You have to pick an Indian. You have to create some outrage by picking an Indian.
Kohli's 100 in the last tour.
In Cape Town?
Yeah. That was a great inning.
Wasn't it Cape Town?
The first test.
Yeah.
That's Cape Town. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a great
innings. That was a great innings. That was definitely a time when he was batting at a different level than that 2018 South Africa, England.
And that was also a great attack. It was Rabada, Morkel, Philander, and I don't know if Steyn played that test. I think he played one other test in that series.
He definitely played Cape.
He played that test. I think, and then Ngidi came in later in the tour.
Ngidi played the next test, Centurion. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was a great attack, and first innings. So it was not exactly up and down pitch, but it was still a lively pitch. And that was probably, I think that's probably, pound for pound, I think that's probably Kohli's best test innings.
I will pick the Sachin's Cape Town 2010. I mean, that duel that he had with Steyn and that sort of whole innings and sort of the effect that I had watching it, I mean, that was something else. I mean, Sachin, that second wind that he had, this was probably the peak of his second wind in that innings. I don't think I can really, I've seen a lot of Sachin innings through the years, but still, I would put that very, very high. But I would also make a honorable mention for, that Durban Test in 2010, where Lakshman made that 96. I think that is the test that India won in that series.
Yeah.
And I think that 96 by Lakshman was quite a fantastic innings as well. So I would put that pretty close. But yeah, Sachin at Cape Town is my favorite. All right.
Rahane made a similar 96 in the next tour. I think also at Durban, if I'm not wrong.
Yes, and that's what basically got Rohit out of the team and Rahane into the team. I'll never forget that.
Anytime you say something about Rahane, it's something. So Mahesh will come and say that's what kept Rohit out of the team.
Of course, Rohit also got out bowled to Stein trying to leave a straight ball. But let's not get into the picture.
So that's enough of history and banter and all that. So let's get to now, this particular series. We spoke about, I briefly touched upon.
You're all. I have to interrupt here. Yeah, every time we do this, every time we always ask, well, what's the innings that you remember? There's no bhav for our bowlers.
No, because we want to piss people off now. That is why. No.
And we start with you. First we piss you off, then the larger population who are listening.
I think India v South Africa, there are two notable Indian bowling performances and bowling efforts which have to be like outstanding. One was like Kumble in the 92-3 tour, where he was basically unhittable. He gave India a lot of control. It was a slow scoring series, granted. And South Africa had like probably less experience of someone like Kumble than other teams might have. But Kumble at that time was like a very different bowler to what he became like 10 years later in Australia. And that the Kumble which everybody remembers is that Kumble from the early 2000s. But that early 90s Kumble was a very different bowler. And the second is Harbhajan Singh in 2009, 2010. That was a fantastic bowler. He was that was 2009, 10, 11. That was like Harbhajan Singh's. I think like it was really his peak. They say that spinners are matured in their 30s, and that was Harbhajan Singh like at his absolute peak, and he was phenomenal. I think he took a lot. I think he took a lot of wickets in that series. I think he took he took 15 wickets in the series.
Seven for one.
Yeah,
7 for 120 or something. He does.
No, I mean, one of the reasons I didn't go with bowling is because of the general history of Indian bowling in South Africa, and also the fact that they have often gone with weak attacks. I would have been totally fine with picking the best bowling spell, and I think that Sreesanth's spell in Wanderers was very good, even though it hit the pebble and it did all that.
He still got 4 other wickets, right? Apart from the one which is Kallis, he still got 4 other wickets.
Yeah. That was a very good spell.
The general image of Indian bowlers is Venkatesh Prasad and Sreesanth dying, coughing their intestines out, bowling.
They had
the 96 series. Both of them are phenomenal. In fact, if you look at the scorecards, South Africa barely scored above 300 in all 3 tests. I think only one inning they scored above 300. But apart from that, if you look at it, in fact, the way Prasad started off in the first Durban Test, while we remember the 166, but the way Prasad started off with a 5-wicket haul in that series was beautiful. He bowled so beautifully right through the series. In fact, both of them. I think 96, I remember that as a very, very sort of productive tour for both the fast bowlers. And Sreesanth, of course, was purely for the fact that it came out of nowhere. Nobody expected it to happen. And all that promise of Sreesanth's beautiful seam position was, I think that's probably the only sustained spell that we got in Test cricket from him. And so you're never going to forget it.
And talking about Kumble, that was the series where the England manager Keith Fletcher went to South Africa to watch. And then he made this famous comment that I did not see him turn a single ball from leg to off. And he said, I don't see him being a problem for us. This was when England were going to come to India after that. And of course, they lost 3-0 and Kumble basically just annihilated them in that series along with Raju and Chauhan.
Like they used to travel across continents to do scouting.
But what's the use? You went to a series in South Africa and then you saw Kumble bowl like that and then you said he didn't turn a single ball from leg to off. Anyway, so having spoken a lot about history, let's come to this. India basically go with, in my opinion, their best bowling attack into South Africa. Ashwin, of course, has a very interesting history there. He has just played 3 tests. He has 7 wickets. He's probably going to play each match from in this series, given Jadeja's absent. But who knows? Given the way India select, they could well go with an all-pace attack and leave Ashwin out again. 5 fast bowlers and then leave Ashwin out again. At which case, the podcast will just go up in flames, I guess. There is nothing left to do for Mahesh and Ashoka. Now only KD and me will be talking after that. That's all. So
Mahesh will go on a hunger strike or something like that. First of all, Rohit Sharma is not there. On top of that, if they leave Ashwin out...
Yeah, we should probably start with that. What do you, Ashwin in the previous times in South Africa, what have we made of it? And also, what do your expectations from Ashwin this time? You can start with that. Yeah.
I thought Ashwin bowled quite beautifully in the last series. Even though the number of wickets is not too much to show for, he kind of gave India a lot of control. And the one test that, out of the 3, one of them was in the time when Dhoni was the captain, where he had a horrendous test, which kind of resulted in him losing the place to Jadeja, from which, he took a while to come back. In fact, even in one of the interviews that he gave a couple of years back, he said, he kind of mentions that point, saying, I have one bad test and I tend to lose my place and so on. And also that set the tone. Basically, he started in South Africa, but he bowled quite beautifully throughout that away leg. And the fact that Jadeja is not there is a good place for him to start. I think he will start in the 11. And in a way, the fact that his batting is also coming along pretty well in recent times after the dip will give Kohli the confidence to play 5 bowlers with Ashwin's batting as a sort of extra buffer. So I see him playing at least in the first test. He'll start. Then I guess it depends on how it goes from there. I expect him to do well in the sense that he's going to continue from where he left off in the last series. Would he have a lot of wickets to show for? It depends on the kind of wickets that we're going to get. But there's no doubt, just like we saw in World Test Championship final, just like we saw in the series in Australia, in the last South African series, whether he takes wickets or not, he's going to give us extraordinary amount of control.
And I think he will play simply because playing 5 fast bowlers or whatnot, exposes India to a huge tail. So I think he'll play just for...
he'll also play for the most important reason. India don't want to lose over 8 points in the World Test Championship, right? That is extremely important. Yeah. England are bleeding points in the WTC. Yeah.
Yeah. So that and batting reasons why I think he will play all 3. Especially now there is no Jadeja and Akshar. His road is clear, so he will...
But there is a second spinner there, right? In the team? Or he's the only spinner?
No, there is. But are you seriously saying Jayant Yadav is going to be played ahead of Ashwin?
Isn't Jayant Yadav a better batsman than Ashwin?
No, he has fewer centuries, no? So...
Yeah, that is true. Okay, let's not get into that level of trolling alone. Yeah, KD, you have any expectations for Ashwin in this series? You think he'll play? I guess you think he'll play, right?
Yeah. I don't think they have another option.
They have 5 fast bowlers. Yeah.
Although I think if the wickets from the last series are anything to go by, there'll be very little for the spinners. Last series, South Africa, I think, played Maharaj only once, if I'm not wrong. They mainly played 4 fast bowlers a lot of the time. They played Maharaj twice. But, he bowled only 36 overs in the entire series. And, he got hammered. So I don't know how much they'll use a spinner. But, look, it's not clear what Ishant Sharma's form is like, so I think at some point Mohammad Siraj is going to be the first choice option with the other 2, Bumrah and Shami. And even them, Shami is now not getting younger. So this could be sort of a last sort of, good tour for India overseas for a while, because this kind of fast bowling doesn't grow on trees. It takes time, and it takes a lot of luck for so many good bowlers to be there at the same time. And I mean, South Africa I think South Africa are going to have a pretty good 3 or 4 years now, or 5 years, simply because I think that slowly they will start reaping the benefits of like the Kolpak system breaking down. So there will be more players available for selection for South Africa, and so they're going to have. They're not going to be an easy proposition. I think this was this little window between like the Amla, De Villiers, Steyn, Markle generation finishing and whatever is going to come next coming along. This was the little window where they were in transition, much like they were in transition in like 2003, 2004, that period, when they were playing like Andrew Hall and people like that. When Pollock was the only one from the old generation and Dale Steyn was not there yet. So their best bowler was often, Ntini, who, as good as he was, he's not really in that, like that Donald, Rabada, Steyn, that level of attacking bowler, he was not. So this is a window, but I mean, I don't know anything about Olivier, how good he is, how threatening he's going to be, anything like that.
He bowled well against Pakistan.
He was fantastic against Pakistan. He has a very mean bouncer, and he's quick. He's got a great bouncer, and right now in the domestic season, he's in terrific form as well. And he's one of the most promising fast bowlers.
Yeah, in the 10 tests some tests that he has played, I think he is very good in South Africa. He's like their Akshar Patel kind of guy. He has like 40 wickets for 17 or something. Some ridiculous numbers he has. So he's a very, very good option they have picked.
Yeah, I mean, so it's not. I think one of the things is that I think people are expecting India to go there and win, and I don't think that is by any means a foregone conclusion. South Africa are still really hard to beat.
I mean, both the bowling attacks are extremely well matched. I mean, if you take out, apart from the spinner, where India obviously have the far superior option, but the fast bowling is very, very evenly matched. I mean, South Africa, in those conditions, Rabada, Nortje, Olivier, that Mulder is also good. And of course, you have Ngidi. Yeah, you have like a good attack there.
The bowling is well matched. I think the difference will come as in the resistance to that bowling, the battings of both teams. Last time, I think South Africa had Amla, De Villiers and Faf, all scoring 50s when required, and they had Elgar and all that. But this time they have Elgar, they have Bauma, they have Deacock and
Rassie. What about Rassie?
The
greatest, Van der Dussen. Yeah,
Van der Dussen.
No, I mean, I think they're all good there. I mean, I don't think they have any problem.
That is the difference. I think even 2018, if you see, the difference was 60 runs difference. Just what a batsman or a couple of batsmen.
I think the difference, a big difference in 2018 was the toss. Actually.
Yeah. So if the surfaces are going to be very similar, it'll come down to that 40-50 run difference, because both bowling attacks are very, very well tuned to that surface.
The surfaces will be interesting because in 2018 there was actually the last test, the one which India eventually won. That was actually like a borderline dangerous pitch. Like it was, I think they even stopped the game for a while on the penultimate day because it was too dangerous. Because that Elgar was getting hit every over. It was impossible. So I don't know what they've done to that square since then, but hopefully nothing like that will happen.
No, and for the conditions, given South Africa's batting, as you've just said, I mean, for conditions, I think it will be for best for them if they prepare bowler-friendly conditions, because, sub 200 sort of games will actually be their best chance, because if they start preparing flat pitches, India's bowlers will probably have that advantage because of the fact that they bowl anyway. They've figured out how to bowl on those pitches anyway, and I don't know how good South African bowlers will be in those conditions. So I feel it could be the way to go for South Africa to prepare the pitches just like last time, where they, which were low scoring and where that basically 50 runs from one batsman makes the difference in the end.
And you also get Ashwin, which is a significant advantage for India.
Yeah, exactly.
Although Maharaj is a pretty good spinner, I got to admit.
He is pretty good, but then against India on flat conditions, I mean,
not in the same league as Ashwin, but he's pretty good.
Yeah, he's good for sure. Yeah.
So it comes down to batting.
I don't think it comes down to batting. It's going to be a fairly close contest, just similar to the 2018 series. The wickets and the toss will play a big part. But both, you can argue both batting are susceptible, right? Even if you look at India, I don't know what they're going to play. Like for instance, they can't drop Mayank after what he has done.
No, especially since Rohit is injured.
So that means
Mayank and KL
will open. And KL himself was making a comeback in England, and he didn't even play the full series over there. So there's that sort of.
Then Pujara, then Kohli. So top 4 is fixed.
Yeah, top 4 is fixed. I'm not sure if they're going to play Rahane or Shreyas. How can you drop Shreyas after what he's done in India?
What about Vihari?
Plus you have Vihari. So it's and I doubt they'll play 6 batsmen. So they're going to play 5. They're going to play Pant and they're going to play Ashwin to start with, and 4 fast bowlers. Given that, there's quite a bit of susceptibility in that lineup, and Kohli himself is not in the greatest of form. Pujara himself is not in the greatest of form, and Pujara, you can argue that South African batting is not as strong as the last series, but it's not like the Indian batting is particularly strong either. I think it's going to be closely fought series, and the South African batting is as such not bad. Dean Elgar is a pretty good opening batsman in these conditions.
Markham is coming into form, and Deacock has been in form for the last.
But Deacock might miss either the third test or second and third test because of his girlfriend expecting to deliver a baby, and because of the bio bubble and all that, it's going to get a little complicated. So that's one factor to consider. But from a batting perspective, they have pretty decent lineup. I would say it's not as good as the last series, because last series you had AB, you had Faf, you had who else?
Amla. You had Amla.
You had Amla as well. Yeah, that's correct. So it's not as good as that, but it's not a bad. I wouldn't call it a mismatch. Let me put it this way.
These guys, India now simply got into this muddle with this Vihari situation, man. They sent him to South Africa, and they then made this thing sort of compensation by saying we are sending him there as a preparation and all. In the meantime, the Shreyas came in and made 100. I had a very good series against New Zealand. So now either way, if they drop Vihari, they are sort of being, in a way, being unfair to him. If they drop Shreyas, they are being unfair to him. If you want to play a guy, just play.
There is a ready-made solution. No, play Vihari, play Shreyas, drop Ashwin. The spin anyways.
The ready-made solution right now is do not play Iyer, do not play Vihari, play Rahane. Experience.
Anyways, for superstition, drop Ashwin, because that is what you will do. No, overseas means drop Ashwin. First thing, you keep your bags from the airport in the hotel, and then drop Ashwin.
I think the policy we should advocate should be based on what is best for our podcast. Okay, what are we going to be able to outrage about the most?
That's a great way to select teams. Absolutely, yeah.
Sorry,
and what about drop Pujara? That is an option as well, given the form and thing as well, right? You could play Shreyas, Vihari, and Rahane by dropping Pujara.
You can, but there's no. Karthikeya keeps saying this, that there's no better alternative, which I don't agree with Rahane, but I kind of agree with him on that when it comes to Pujara, that there is nothing for us to believe that Vihari had a pretty decent run. It's not like, okay, at least with Shreyas, he's just played one test and he had a phenomenal test or one series. Whereas with Vihari, he's had a decent run and in different conditions. So it is not obvious to me that I'm sorry to kind of mimic KD here, but it's not obvious to me that Vihari will be a better alternative to Pujara, at least at this stage.
Eventually, every cricket writer, cricket podcaster, everybody eventually will turn into KD. So it's okay. You can mimic KD. That is fine.
No, don't turn into me. No, I am already there. No, why you want to turn into me?
That is the problem.
But then you go and pick Gibbs 196. No, then I've got to okay, you are moving away from the territory. You got to come into your territory.
Talking about the batting itself, I mean, first of all, KL as vice captain is again quite interesting, given how KL basically 2 series ago was not even in the team. And then he came back to the England team. Then he got injured, but now he's the vice captain. So Kohli gets injured for some reason, and KL Rahul is leading your test team, which is, quite a story in itself. But,
but it's proof of my theory, it's proof of my theory that it doesn't matter who is captain.
Tree stump, Sidvi. Tree stump with an Indian jersey. Remember that discussion.
Yeah. Of course. No, but Indian batting in South Africa, it's going to be quite interesting. I mean, Mayank himself, he's, of course, had a fantastic series against New Zealand, fantastic series at home, but this will be a very interesting challenge for him abroad. KL also, of course, he had a good series in England, but now he's coming back and South Africa has a whole new different challenge. Pujara, Kohli, not in the greatest of form, definitely far from their peak. And then you have that final slot, which we discussed, where all of them are, Shreyas is new, Rahane is not in form, Vihari, again, a bit of an unknown. It could be, I won't be surprised if India collapse in a couple of innings there for no scores.
So I believe this series is anyways going to be 230 plays, 220, something like that on average. And so collapses are to be expected. I will be very, very surprised if there is going to be a 450 score or 500 score from either teams. So it's okay. That's on par with how much Pujara and Kohli and Rahane have been. They have been in their mid-20s average. And that is going to be 250 is going to be the score anyways for this series. So batting those 40-50 runs, if you can manage, squeeze somewhere, that will be an advantage to the team.
It just brings us back to the point about how Ashwin's selection becomes almost crucial then, because, the moment you're talking about a 220, 230 kind of series, then you want your lower order to be chipping in with that 50, 60 runs as well, right? So Ashwin's batting automatically becomes important. Pant, of course, is there. But India's fast bowlers, Ishant Sharma, you can say can hang around, but I don't really know how his batting has been.
Tommy and Bumrah, man, they had a great partnership in England. So
yeah, of course. And in Australia also, no, they had some.
I think they had Shami and Bhuvi had a good partnership in the 2018 series as well. Some 30-20 these guys make.
What has happened to our man?
Who?
Lord
has not even been brought into this discussion, unfortunately. Yeah.
Don't start. It'll go another hour.
Then if Lord comes in, then Ashwin is out, boss.
Yeah, exactly. That is the crucial thing.
No. Lord comes in, then Ishant is out, I think.
Yeah, could be. Actually, yeah, Shardul is an interesting option. And in South Africa, given his style of bowling, could be a good option too.
Isn't he having his literal honeymoon? Literally, he just got married sometime back, so this might be his honeymoon phase. So I don't know.
But I don't think that's the reason why he's not.
I don't think that's the reason, but anyways, I don't know.
Kartikeya is posting emotional posts about Washington Sundar 6 against Cummins and all. This has now reached a new level.
What emotion? All I said is I would buy a poster.
Isn't that like peak emotion by your standards?
No. I have posters. I've had posters.
He has made people cry and all. You're making people cry and all, KD, for emotionally. This is now.
People are crazy.
Soon you will have KD writing, articles full of psychobabble, and then that's it. Then that's all. We can all give up cricket.
What a bowler Cummins is.
Yeah, exactly. You will say the sheer character shown by Washington Sundar in Gabba and all. Then that's all. Retire.
It was a fluke,
Finished.
Man. I wrote about it.
It's the triumph of will over skill.
I told you I'd write about it. I wrote about it. I even wrote that it was a fluke.
Yeah. Okay. Now, we shouldn't distract ourselves too much now. But I have not watched too much of South Africa. I didn't watch too much of that South Africa-Pakistan series, but you people can tell me. Apart from, I think Markram had a good sort of a little bit of a few good innings. But apart from that, who is going to mainly score runs for them? Elgar, is it? Elgar is their main guy.
Yeah,
because Bavuma, I don't think Bavuma did well also, I think, in Pakistan, right?
I think Markham did well. I think he had 100 also, fourth innings 100.
Yeah.
So I think the squad would be Elgar, Bauma, Markham, 3 sure slots. Rassie van der Dussen, that's the 4th slot. So there'll be 1 batting slot. That will be between either Keegan Peterson or when Deacock leaves, Kyle Warren. So I think those will be the 5 batting slots. Vian Mulder will be the all-rounder perhaps. And then you'll have 4 bowlers or 5 bowlers. If you want 4 pacers plus Keshav Maharaj, you'll have 5 slots. So that is pretty much going to be the squad for them.
So if Deacock leaves, who's the keeper?
Kyle Warren. I think Kyle Warren.
Oh, Warren.
Warren played, I think, against West Indies. So I think they'll go with him. So that will probably be their 11. So it's not going to be very different from what they.
No, they have another keeper batsman called Ryan Rickleton, who will likely replace Quinton de Kock when he leaves.
Right, but I would be tempted if I were South Africa. I mean, to go with 4 fast bowlers and a spinner.
No, so with Olivia coming back, it's a little tricky. So do you play the all-rounder and Maharaj, or do you play 4 fast bowlers and the all-rounder, or do you play basically your Nokia, Rabada, Ngidi, Olivier, and Mulder or Maharaj? So that's the question, right? So, or you drop one of the fast bowlers, play Mulder and Maharaj, but that'll be a compromise. I don't think they'll do that, especially when you get Olivier back, and who's apparently in sort of really sterling form in domestic cricket as well. So there's no question that they'll play the 4. So Rabada, Ngidi, Nokia, Olivier is like a certainty. Between Maharaj and Mulder, they might choose depending on the conditions. And Mulder, of course, also gives you the batting advantage. Elgar Markram will open. Keegan Peterson, I mean, he's just started, so he'll continue. Rassie will bat at number 4. Number 5 will be Bauma, of course. And then 6 is Quinton de Kock. When Quinton leaves, they will get this backup keeper.
Rickleton.
Yeah. So that seems to, unless somebody gets injured, I don't see this lineup changing. So essentially, the only question comes down to, do they play Vian Mulder or Maharaj?
But I want to say that, as much as the talk is about, with Rabada, Nokia and Ngidi and Olivier being like the main talk, that's all good. But I saw this, I've been watching a bit of this Mulder in the recent series. He's very good, especially in South Africa. He's a great option for them, has that wonderful seam position, gets the ball to move a bit, gets in that 20-30 runs with the bat. He's a wonderful option to have in number 7 when you're playing there. So,
and a very, very handy 5th bowler. So it makes sense for South Africa to play him, or to get conditions where they can drop Maharaj and play him, which also negates the Ashwin threat substantially. So my guess is we'll get conditions similar, that makes them play 4 plus Mulder rather than Maharaj.
Yeah. Okay. So spoken about the team's conditions, drama, history. I think we have covered quite a lot. The only thing left is the wrong predictions as usual. So, okay, let me start off. Why not? I'll hedge as usual. I'll go with 1-1, and there will be some rain or something that will make the third one a draw. Okay, Ashoka?
2-1 India. Let me go with 2-1 India.
Ever the optimist. Very good.
Why not?
Yeah. But you were right. At England, you said, what did you say in England?
I said 4-1 India, but I would take 3-1 India.
It could be 3-1. Yeah. Okay, Mahesh?
I'm going to go with 2-1 South Africa and Bauma to have a great series.
Oh, double prediction. Very good, very good. You can get so many things wrong. KD?
Oh, I don't know. it depends on who. If everybody is fit, I think India should win. But my sense is that with this COVID and all this, it's very doubtful that India are going to especially the bowlers fit. So I'll say that I'd say 1-1 is keeping everything in mind, assuming that the tests go ahead, which given what's going on is still not a certainty.
Yeah, of course. With the variant and everything, and anything could happen. Tests could get cancelled, series could get cancelled. Anything can happen. Yeah.
What's it about South African series and the uncertainty around starting?
They have no money.
Or finishing. In the case of 2001 series, it was about finishing. The third test was unofficial. In the case of 2010, was it 10 or 13? That series where it was about Sreesanth kind of, holding the cards close to his chest and not figuring out when, not committing to going there. Eventually, it was truncated into a 2-test series, which was originally supposed to be 3. And they used Sachin's last test as a reason to not travel at that time. South Africa series has something about not starting on time.
Also, a crucial point that we have not even mentioned is that Virat Kohli is going to be playing his 100th test in Cape Town. And that is, KD, you have to tell us the stats of people who have played the 100th test and what Virat Kohli is going to do. You have to put a projection of his score in that 100th test.
Big match.
Big match, exactly. Big match player.
Big occasion.
Kohli is always the party when it matters.
Yeah.
You're assuming he's going to get picked.
He's the captain, man. Unless he gets injured, of course. Yeah.
For now.
Yeah, for now. Yeah, exactly.
Nana has already said leave it to BCCI.
I did see one wonderful line. Like Gavaskar, very coyly, he says, there is a discrepancy here. It's he says, BCCI president should clear up the discrepancy. As if it's like some totaling error, somewhere.
and the piece that you mentioned that you read, the Sharda Ugra piece, it alludes to this, and it sort of mentions that Gavaskar said it's a discrepancy, and then it also mentions discrepancy on the scale that exists between China and Taiwan. So, yeah, I think that was a apt way to describe it. So, yeah, I will link all these articles in the notes. I will, you can listen to our sort of podcast that reviewed the India-New Zealand series to get a bit more, perspective on the team and the performances. South Africa, I think, is always exciting. So really looking forward to this series. So, yeah, thanks, guys. Thanks for joining. Ashoka, Mahesh, Kartikeya. Hopefully we can catch up after, the first test. The thing is, the problem is the tests are all so close by that by the time we do a review of the test, the next test may already have started. But we'll try. We'll try to definitely do reviews of tests, but we'll obviously surely do a review of the series at the end of it. So 81allout.com is our website. You can go there and listen to our previous podcasts. Please subscribe to, you can download any of your podcast apps and, sign on to 81 All Out. Spread the word, leave a rating, leave a review. Buy the book that we recently republished, War Minus the Shooting. You can buy it on Amazon. There's e-copy, paperback. And as I said, in India, and especially if you're in Bangalore, you can go to the Attagalata bookstore. But it's a bookstore that also delivers by courier. So you can, tweet them or you can write to them. I'll put all the details in the show notes. Thanks for joining, and, advance wishes for Christmas and New Year, but hopefully we'll meet by the end of the year as well.
He'll come back for the second. India have won the test match. India have won the series. They're going to get back for 2. India home. Lords goes wide.